There we go. Okay, take three. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Scottish Resistance Chat Show. We started off with me ending the feed by mistake, and when we finally got back on, I didn't have the volume on. So, take three for this show. So sorry about
Nearly as
that.
many takes as the BBC.
You can take it too far, mate.
That was a bit below the belt, Raymond.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, but let me introduce the panel again for you guys. You've seen him, you all know him. But first of all, Mr. Ian Leckerby, how you doing, mate?
Yes, I'm very good this evening. Thanks for everyone joining us. So, just to repeat what I said a second ago, because none of you can hear it, if you're watching on the Scottish Resistance page, the Doorstep Referendum, Independence Live, or any of the other many pages or groups that you may be following from, thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure you hit a wee reaction on the stream, help us spread that appetite for Scottish independence. Get involved in the chats as well, have the discussion. We're going to be covering a wide range of really interesting topics tonight, and it'd be really good to get your thoughts and opinions on them, and we'll try and include as many of the comments as we can as we go through tonight's show.
Definitely. And, well, to me, somebody that needs an introduction by a good friend of mine, Mr. John Mellon. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, great, Raymond. Fine just now. Yeah.
Good to hear. You just went on a bit of a holiday?
I had a holiday with my wife, my daughter, and my 5-year-old granddaughter. But we just went to Crail in the East Nuke of Fife. It was beautiful, a little cottage.
Well, I'm sure you enjoyed the time with family, right?
Yeah.
Always
yeah.
the best. Always the best.
Yeah.
And finally, I found Mr. James Scott. How you doing, mate?
I'm fine, Raymond.
Great to have everybody on, and great to have everybody watching. Let's go through the people: Lenny Hughes, Alison Clark, Thomas MacArthur, Stephen Kelly, Dave McBeath, Alex Adam, Jackie Charles, Ian Middleton, George Neve, Joe Gibson, Tracy Miller, Liam Ferguson, Davy Dozy Cardona, and it says 7 others, but I can't see the name. So
Good.
I wanna welcome you all to the show. Please engage with us and each other to keep everything going. And if you have questions, please let us know. During the last topic tonight, the Craig Murray situation that we're going to talk about. If you guys want to join us on the show and talk about that topic, we're going to allow 3 people. So the first 3 that click on the link when we post it, you can join us for the last topic, and you can join the discussion. So that's for later on. The first topic that we want to talk about, and there's John back again. The first topic that we want to talk about is something that Indie Life really promotes, is the take part in the Food Sovereignty Week, and that's what we're going to talk about during the show. And Ian's going to lead us off on that. Ian.
Yeah, so the Independence Live this week, all the shows that will be going out on the platform will have the Scottish food sovereignty as part of their backbone. And it's really just to highlight, fresh, great Scottish produce. We're obviously going through the fallout now of Brexit. We're seeing it with our empty shelves. We're seeing it with supply chain issues. So, and especially the way things have been, now's the time more than ever to support your grassroots, homegrown produce wherever you can. Buy local, helps the environment, helps everyone in your local communities, brings local jobs into the area. And as someone that with my business, Alba Provision, was working highly within all the Scottish food and drink sectors, it's a really unique market we have here. It's some of the produce some of the finest cheeses, meats, fish, whiskies, all sorts of great things. So let us know in the comments, what are your favourite Scottish products? Won't see many comments about Tunnock's tea cakes, but maybe quite a few about, somewhere like, if I was to shout out any business now, thinking of, what's their names down in Coat Bridge, make the chocolate bars. I'll find their name out. Someone will comment in the chat before I get a chance to Google it.
mention Baxter Suppian.
Well, yeah, was that not Baroness Davidson's latest new job role as well? So, aye, not Baxter Soup, not turnips. Keep Scotland the brand. So that's the whole point of the campaign of Independence Live this week. Partner up with as many grassroots Scottish producers as we can. So, yeah, just carry that message forward. Buy locally, buy Scottish. If it's got the Jack, put it back.
Oh, definitely. James, what would you like to say about this?
Well, I don't really know much about it. I've just heard a wee bit about it now that Ian's spoken about it. But what I have noticed is the empty shelves are getting worse in our supermarkets here in Scotland. It's unbelievable. It really is. And I think it may well get worse. Whether it's Brexit or COVID or a combination, I don't know. But certainly there's something far wrong.
Well, in this situation, I think the leading part of it is still Brexit. I mean, if you look at which commerce basically stopped when Brexit kicked in, a lot of was in the produce. A lot of produce didn't come in anymore. And that's what we've talked about even in the past, is that fresh produce, there was already a shortage of fresh produce before Brexit hit. Even before that, and then you could 101 is 2. I mean, you could see it coming, but nobody acknowledged it, nobody thought about it, and now we're at the point where we are.
The thing about COVID, the mad rush that was on for things like toilet rolls and sanitizer and all that when this COVID outbreak first came in. Now we've got this situation where shelves are empty and people are going to start grabbing as many things off the shelf as they can possibly get. I mean, I was in the supermarket yesterday and a certain item, there was only 2 cans of it. So rather than take the 2 cans and leave the shelf empty, I only took 1.
Exactly.
So that's just a thing that I do, but not everybody's like that. They'll clear the shelf.
Well, you mentioned
you
mentioned the COVID situation. What was the first thing that happened when that hit? Toilet paper.
Toilet paper and diabetes got nothing to do with COVID, by the way.
Exactly.
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
So all these folk are sitting in enough toilet roll for a lifetime, and they don't know what to do with it now.
That's what I'm sitting on right now, James. 400 toilet rolls.
But the thing, the biggest problem in my view is in every situation like this is people start to panic and people start hoarding, and that's basically what creates the empty shelves more rapidly than it normally does. John, your views?
Yeah, well, when I was at East Uke, I made a point to speak to the fisher there in Pittenweem, Crail and Anstruther, and the anger up there is just, they know they were fooled. They were fooled, right? They were fooled. But it doesn't matter because we were still dragged out anyway. Because they were promised the heavens with Grey Party, weren't they?
Yeah.
But the fishing right now, they can't export their fish really, and the shellfish.
Exactly. That's a good point that you brought up, the shellfish. I mean, a really large part of the shellfish export came to the Netherlands, and not just for consumption, but also for cleaning, stuff like that. That came to the Netherlands, and that was processed. They actually now are stuck with great produce, which they themselves have not yet found. Basically, they aren't using it. They are not eating it most of the time.
No, it's been cast. It's rotten. It's been thrown.
Exactly.
Yeah, but not only, there's a lot of other small businesses, like on garden centres, who they can't even sell their their produce either. I mean, it's just, and Brexit hasn't even begun to hit yet, Jim.
Exactly.
People are in for a big shock.
But the weird thing is, and the weird thing is, last week I saw this article where Boris apparently had said that he's not going to engage with the European Union. They have to come up with ideas or something. What was what he said? No, we are going to set up the plan and we are contacting them or something. I don't know exactly what it is, but basically
they're blaming the EU, Raymond.
Exactly.
They wanted Brexit, but they're blaming the EU. But they're blaming the EU because your average person is threatened to them, and they in turn are blaming the common market, blame the EU. That's the dirty tricks to get up to.
Yeah.
They only appeal to their cores.
Exactly.
They're no interest in us in Scotland, who now even the Weather Force calls it Northern Britain. You see?
Yeah.
Old tactic. And it's just a pity that the SNP never held out their hand and took the friendship that we had off them to become a real force, a real force, which would have made Windsor shit themselves.
Well,
shit themselves.
Yeah. The thing is, I really, when they, was it 2 years and a half ago, 2 years ago, when they walked out of Parliament, it was at that point I really thought, well, this might be, but then again, the day after.
That was a bluff, I think.
Yeah. It could very well have been.
That was all. Just a bluff, Raymond.
Yeah.
But they've no purpose down there, James, have they? What purpose are they serving in Westminster? Nothing.
Well, the thing is, in one way, I do feel like they were elected. They were put in that place by the Scottish people. They were elected to be there. But at one point, you would say enough is enough.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Look what Sinn Féin does.
Well, I salute them. I salute Sinn Féin.
Yeah.
But then there's other ones that certain SNP MPs, Wishart, Alan Smith, MacDonald, all these people have blocked all us. We're all, nearly every SNP MP is, apart from Joanne Sherry, other members.
When you say us, who are you referring to? When you say us, who are you talking about us?
Well, you see, I'm James. That's
John,
all.
John.
And if I asked a question, they just block me.
No, but what group are you talking about? Who have they blocked? What group is it? Alba you're talking about? Who you talking about?
Block. Alba blocked James. And not just Alba. No, sorry. A lot of the women's groups they block them as well.
Really?
They block the women's groups. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely shocking.
I find it incredible that this party that I supported from about 1970 up to 2015, it's not the party that I joined. And
no.
It's incredible. I mean, it's so ironic that the height of their voting, the amount of votes they get now, and they're not, the people in the hierarchy of the SNP, to me, they cannot be trusted. Cannot be trusted.
No. Saying that though, they were once a great party.
Yeah.
They were once a great party, and no, I don't trust them. Now that we can't, this £660,000, the they can't, won't be revealed any details or discussion because it's not in the public interest. It's not, and that's the Crown Office have said that. So we'll never know where it went.
Yeah.
By the way,
Never
John.
know.
By the way, John. Every now and then you keep breaking up.
Do
you have a bad connection or something, or?
No, not really. Well, what I'm using is my camera microphone, but I've got another one, a Snowball, which is a better one.
No, but you keep freezing as well. When it starts breaking up, you keep freezing as well. So.
Oh.
But I mean, we went on for the since the beginning now, so don't worry about it. Just so you know that if we ask for, could you please repeat that? Then you know why. It's because you keep.
I will do that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the second topic because we do have to move along because the final topic is a topic that we'll probably need the most time with because that's a serious topic. Not that this is not serious, but we do have to get to that. The next topic that we want to talk about is the past weekend's event, the sim event. Were Ian and James, were you both there, or John, were you there? No, you were on your vacation, but were you two there?
I wasn't there. No, Ian went.
I was there.
Could you tell us how it went?
Yeah, I mean, as indie events go, it was a decent one. It was a good turnout. We Scotland put the numbers at 500 participants on the day. I would have personally put it closer to maybe about 1,500, possibly as much as 2,000. Just by the time that people were joining in from different parts of the city, as we went from Kelvin Grove Park all the way to Glasgow Green. If you want to catch up on it, all the footage is on Independence Live. Someone at Indie Live Radio's very kindly edited a YouTube version as well, so it's up on there and all. So if you were at the walk, you should be able to pick yourself out from the crowds at some point. But yeah, it's standard summers, August in Glasgow. A bit of rain guaranteed. There was no there was no a Farce for Good. Forgot their name, even though that's not their name. But a Farce for Good were not there on the day. However, it was interesting because Alistair Manky Jacket McConaughey had been replaced with George the Catlicker Galloway at George Square. So he gave his tuppence from the side to George Square, and it was just came across as a very angry little man. I was very underwhelmed by him. I thought of someone of his political stature and experience, he would have been pretty big in Carson. Granted, I'm 6'6", so I make everyone look small. But no, he was. I wasn't impressed by him at all. But the walk, Sim organised the day. That was only Sim's second actual walk. They'd sorted out lots of caravans throughout the COVID pandemic time. So as we were all in lockdown, they were still getting out there and about with the cars around the Central Belt and all over I think they went up East Coast as well and all over the country. Yeah. So it's, but yeah, it was good to see people back out in the ground, proper engaging with grassroots activists in a nice solid environment. So there was plenty in the chat here tonight that were there as well. So Jock Gibson and Catriona McDonald were down there as well. We had Dave McGuinness and the truck. Dave was there.
I've seen Dave for a long time.
Was at the front as well. So yeah, there was a lot of familiar faces, a lot of characters. But yeah, I think numbers were from where some were pre-COVID, very good. It was a very good turnout for a sim event. But yeah, certainly from what we're kind of used to when we don't think about the individual organisations that organise the marches, but any event that's happening, it was certainly the biggest one since the pandemic started, and hopefully a good sign of how things are going to go in the months ahead, because there's more walks organised in Glasgow, Stirling, RaLei, Edinburgh. So yeah, it's going to be
people are becoming a wee bit more confident now, and after the shock of what happened, during and after the election, and then with the COVID, people are coming out more now.
Well, even at that, because we walked past Buchanan Street So I got a wee kind of good viewpoint at that point. We came down Sauchiehall Street as well, and there wasn't people there. For what you would expect at noon, lunchtime, or a Saturday afternoon in Glasgow. The weather, as I said, wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. It was, it felt like a busy town rather than the city centre of the biggest city in Scotland. So I think we've still got a long way to go. I know with the work that I do, a lot of independent retailers are really struggling now. So just to get footfall through the door, and the way that this, we can talk about the gap, the rising between the haves and the have-nots. I think billionaires have added on something like 1.7 trillion over the last 12 months of the pandemic, whereas the lowest, I think all the modest staff are going to get an extra day off this year. So it's I think we've still got a long way to go, but I think from a back onto marching and getting out there, I think people have the confidence that, we're seeing street stalls popping up, we're seeing walks happening across the country now, we're seeing events coming back to life. So keep an eye on all the social media feeds. Scottish Resistance, we're trying to obviously within our groups share everything that's going on as best as we can. Because I was on the Norrie Hunter radio show today on Caldon Media, and one of the points he raised, which is a very valid one, was that he didn't hear about the event prior to happening. It was published in the National on the Friday beforehand, but he hadn't seen it on any of his Facebook or Twitter accounts. So that's why we always feel like repeating myself like a horse in the face here, but like, share, comment, help us spread, even if you share it once, share the same thing, 3 or 4 different groups, share it every time you see a live feed pop up. Help us educate everyone as to why we want Scottish independence, how we're going to get it.
The thing is this, saying we since 2014, and then with the show, when the result of the election, when we really were desperate to hold an olive branch out to the SNP, that stunned people. And what happened then was the Yes movement just fragmented. It fragmented overnight. That really shocked and angered me.
The SNP shut it down. The SNP
they did. They did.
It down, and yet that some people kept their Yes groups going. So good on them. The SNP
they did.
Tried to totally destroy the Yes movement after the 2014 referendum, when they rigged it to be exactly 45% because of the 45 rebellion.
And again, both votes done it again, James.
Yeah.
There were over 1 million votes binned again.
Yeah.
I thought that we would have been, our people would have become more politically edged the last time and realised, oh, wait a minute, we can't give them both votes. Right. And then the unionists, the Tories, especially MSPs, even that big Stuart Kerr from Stirling, they all get a salary for the next 5 years in Holyrood. And the SNP had the audacity to stand up and applaud them in. I was just shocked. Shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just the brutal truth, Raymond. Because Twitter right now is really on fire. And fire with women's groups as well.
Yeah.
As also ex-SNP MSPs and MPs joining the other party. That's what's happening. But I can't see politics now. I'm more an activist now. I can't get through this standing in the street with a stall now, trying to educate people. There's some people, let's be honest, will never be educated. Never be educated.
Right. Never be educated.
Impossible. But it's the young ones I appeal to. And it's the young ones I can communicate with. But no, let's be honest about it. There is a cult thing in Scotland at the moment. A cult thing. And that is quite sad that we haven't moved on a great deal. I thought people would have been saying, okay, let's get another party, another indie party into Holyrood. Let's do this, let's set the hell on fire. Never happened. The union
I think the reason that happened, John, it's ultimately down to the fact, because I flash back, and Raymond was sitting beside us at the time, when we were sitting at SNP conference, and Chris McElhenney came onto the stage to talk about Plan B independence, and he got booed. Now, it was, for me, flabbergasting that I'm sitting here with all these SNP members. I was joined the party in 2014, the day after the independence referendum was lost. So this is my first conference, and I couldn't get my head around, because as an independence activist like myself, and I'm sure you all use it, I know all you boys are here as well, and girls watching the stream. Sorry we're not getting any lady on the panel tonight, but we have this position now where we should be working on Plan A through to Z on Scottish independence. So that's where your things like your blockchain democracy and the digital covenant come in. That's where the marching comes in. That's where the flag waving and the door knocking and the canvassing comes in. That's where the political parties come in. That's where ALPA, the SNP, the Scottish Greens. That's where, and the Scotia Future as well, ISP, AFI. It's all. We're always going to be divided by everything to do with body politics. It's the nature of politics as a whole. What we're getting into the position of is actually getting done, get everything that we can behind it, and then let's argue over the politics of it and who we're following. Is it Nicola? Is it Saint Nick? Or is it Alex Salmon? Raymond?
Yeah, this is something I said a couple of weeks ago on the other show as well. You keep on saying the SNP needs to get a campaign going. Technically, we kept it going. They just need to jump on board. That's what they need to do.
Who's that, Raymond?
Well, now,
who's that?
Now, I said, I made a point. It's like a lot of people saying that the SNP need to start a campaign. They have to get a campaign going. But I keep saying...
They've killed the campaign.
No, but I keep saying we kept the campaign going. The Yes Movement have kept the campaign. They need to jump on board.
They don't want anything to do with anybody that's not SNP. This is the sad thing. It really annoys me that they will not get involved. They don't want to go to marches organised by certain groups. They don't want to go to anything organised by any indie group. They want to just stick by themselves, SNP and nothing else.
They've isolated themselves from the real people, James. They're in this bubble now. They've become totally inclusive, reclusive in fact, because they know their salaries are secured for 5 years. 5 more years, right? No campaign.
Us supporters, us real indie supporters are out there, no wages. We're not getting bloody paid wages for independence.
And it costs us a lot of money to travel all over Scotland also.
Yeah.
Supporting them, well, the Yes Movement actually.
Okay.
It's really sad, it's tragic really.
Yeah.
And they had the cheek to mention starting a digital campaign. There's been a digital campaign going on, Ian will tell you that, for long enough. A very professional one. The SNP just didn't want to know. So they actually stole the ideas from that campaign. A great campaign it was too. I think you know the guy I'm talking about, Ian, that owns the hotel. A total gentleman.
Russell. So he took the whole concept of the digital covenant blockchain democracy to the SNP back in 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
So it's now the grassroots have created their own blockchain democracy, and it's I know for a fact that the digital covenant website's down at the moment. They're having some tech issues with their web hosting, but once it's back up in the next few hours or days, get on it, get it signed. If we get to 2.7 million signatures,
I signed it long ago. Yeah,
it's a long way. I think there's about 3,000 members signed up with their 2 forms of ID, and you have to get the 2 forms of ID simply to verify that you're a real person and that you have a right to have a decision on what happens in Scotland. Now, you don't have to be Scottish, you just have to be residing in Scotland. And if you are watching internationally, which I know a lot of people do on these platforms, you can still sign the digital covenant and just sign it as a non-citizen.
Over 2 million votes is very, very difficult. Over 2.5 million people are signing it.
Yeah, it's going to be 9 impossible to get to those numbers.
Yeah.
If we do, what we actually are able to create is whatever we choose, because then we've got the whole point of the Declaration of Arbroath that was written in 1320,
yeah.
and what makes it very complicated for the Vatican Church, or the Vatican, where the Pope was at the time, was it made every single person in Scotland sovereign. So that meant that, it wasn't anointing a king as the sovereign of that nation, it was anointing every individual. And this is effectively, at that point, they didn't have the technology that we do nowadays to invoke that sovereignty. So bring in true democracy, bring in...
That proves, Ian, that we don't need any Section 30. We don't need a Section 30.
At that point, we don't even need the SNP. If we get the 2.3, I think 2.3 million is the ultimate voting majority of Scotland. Okay. But if you get that number, then we can, as a collective, enact that blockchain and take all the powers from... Because, and this is where I probably follow it with independence activists all the way through, my biggest problem with the grassroots independence movement is I really struggle to see where is independence going. I can see everyone campaigning for this date and winning the freedom, but what then? What happens after that? And I think these are the important questions, because this is how we'll win the next referendum. Because if we have answers to these questions and we have a plan in place, we can implement it.
If we can we do have to move on. But I want to close this topic off with a comment from Dave McBeath. Forget your politics. Let's get independence done. Then we can sort out our politics. The people need to get on board, and he has a good point in there, I think. James, next topic is our week in history.
Yeah, just a couple of short bits of history. On the 15th of August 1771, that was the birth date of Sir Walter Scott. So we've just passed it by a day. We're on the 16th. 15th August 1771, birth date of Sir Walter Scott in Edinburgh. He was a prolific writer, one of Scotland's best known writers. He wrote the Waverley novels. He wrote a book which I am particularly fond of called Tales of a Grandfather. It's one of the most detailed books on Scottish history. Now, I've read countless books on Scottish history, but one of my favourites is Tales of a Grandfather by Sir Walter Scott, when he's telling the history of Scotland to his grandson. It's a fantastic book. I've got a copy, and it's nearly 200 years old. It's a fantastic book, Tales of a Grandfather. Now, nearly a century later, after the birthday of Sir Walter Scott, on the 15th of August 1840, they laid the foundation for the monument to Sir Walter Scott in Edinburgh. And that was 15th August 1840. So he is still remembered, a great author, Sir Walter Scott. Now, another important date in history, we're right on the date now, 16th of August. 16th of August 1944, John Logie Baird, he was the inventor of television. He actually demonstrated colour TV back in 1944. So the question's got to be asked, if John Logie Baird was able to do colour TV in 1944, why did it take so long for us to actually start broadcasting in colour? It took, was well into the 60s, wasn't it, before they started doing that in colour?
They probably stole his ideas, James.
Yeah, well, I mean, John Logie Baird...
It took them years to develop it.
I mean, John Logie Baird, TV, and Alexander Graham Bell, telephone, and I could go on and on and on and on about all the things that Scots have done.
So I have to thank John Logie Baird for showing my beard so vivid on the bloody screen.
Well, I forgot to mention, that was the first time they used... That was the first time they used 600 lines. They used to broadcast in lines, right?
Yeah.
So it was 600 lines to get a colour TV picture. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers, way back when it was black and white, they broadcast in 405 lines. That's what made up your black and white picture. But they had to do it.
What is it now?
It's 625, I believe, now for the colour pictures you get now.
Uh-huh.
But John Logie Baird, in the initial colour TV, it was 600 line system that he used. So it's fantastic.
Incredible.
back 1944, they were able to do colour TV, but we never actually got it broadcast until much, much later. So there you are, two very famous Scots tonight in history, Sir Walter Scott and John Logie Baird.
Brilliant.
Definitely.
Great, James.
Well, we've come to the. Is there somebody that wants to respond to that? John, Ian?
No, not really. I know everything that James has said there. And I know he
John
loves his
Gingerbeard.
sister also.
John Ginger Baird.
Hey,
I would
listen.
just add in just a couple of quick things, just comments that have come through
Yeah.
from people. So, thanks everyone that's watching online. Remember to hit that wee like, share, comment, help us spread the
Yeah.
update of Scottish independence. Troon Radio shared the stream earlier on. Thank you very much for that. There was a couple of questions about the verified on the blockchain. Just to confirm, the way that the blockchain signatories work is once the name is verified, it's actually committed to the blockchain, and it effectively activates a digital currency. So see when we talk about plan ABC, a plan B to a Scottish currency problem, for example, could be a digital currency, which is, funnily enough, built into the blockchain democracy and the digital covenant. So that's the reason why the 10,000 hasn't become more than that, and because we're going to have to pay for 2.3 million as well, so we'll have to work it, because every time we talk about money, everything gets really complicated. So
Yeah, I know.
as I said, we'll work our way through it. As we can get
You know, it's up to people like us and thousands like us to
listen,
set the head on fire, to
Aye.
regenerate, reignite the fire within the people in Scotland.
And I
to-
would say, if you do
to
have a
feel
few pounds
proud
to spare,
about
look out
themselves.
for the crowdfunders that are going around now. The two walks that are happening, Ever doing our last 13, 20 miles, and Fiona and Pete doing their 500 miles finish up in from Skye to Culloden. They're looking for their crowdfunders, so put a few pennies in there.
What's that for Ian at the Culloden? Was it the...
Culloden's going to be finishing the 28th. That's where Pedro and Fiona are finishing their walk. So same day as the Faslane protest in Glasgow.
The 28th of August.
Yes.
I don't know what one to do there. Either go to Fastlane or visit Culloden.
What
So
I'll
I
say
need to
is
think about
Independence
that.
Live will be covering as many of the events as possible. So we'll be posting
Yeah.
ever stuff as she puts it on her socials.
Mhm.
We'll have live footage from outside Faslane, and we should have cameras on the ground up in Culloden. So because
Yeah.
Indie Live is, phenomenal team there of Indie Vissol.
They people are great. They're fantastic. But I see Alaba made an announcement about Trident, and then they were shot down about it. I said, well, let's say don't mention Trident now. Alaba said the very first day of independence, they can move all their stuff south. We'll see. But there's a lot of people now that won't be alive in 5 years. So we'll need to speed things up a bit.
Definitely.
Definitely.
We'll need to throw down the gauntlet. We need people that are strong enough. Even the Alba party, throw down the gauntlet with those bloody gangsters in London.
Definitely.
It's our only way.
Definitely. All right.
It really is.
What we're going to do now is move on to the final topic. That's the Craig Murray jailing.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a topic that we're going to have the discussion on, I think, especially with people from the audience coming in. What we're going to do now, people, we're going to, on the Scottish Resistance chat on our page, that's where the link will be put in the pinned comment in a minute. So if you're watching from any other page than the Scottish Resistance page, but you still want to join the discussion, please change over to that chat and click on the link as soon as it pops up. But to keep it within a time scale that we can work with, we are going to allow 3 people, and the first 3 people that click on the link, we will enter them. And if you can make it, we're going to do this every single week as well during the final comment. So if not this week, you'll be on next week or whatever week. So I'm going to share the link now and put it in the pinned comment. And if you want to join us with a discussion on the jailing of Craig Murray, you'll be
What's your thoughts on it, James?
I think it's disgraceful, but they're going to, anybody who supports independence in any way is going to be jailed. They try to jail me for saying no bag, believe it or not. I mean, it's just unreal. I mean, I've never been in trouble in my life. I'm not a troublemaker. I'm a peaceful person. I don't get involved in things that you end up in jail for normally. But I couldn't understand why a couple of young coppers turned up one day a couple of years ago, picked me up, and took me to a police station, and they're looking at each other and they're saying, "What's this? Why are you picking up this guy for saying no bag?"
Yeah.
But by God, did I not get some grilling for some British shit? Nah.
Well, the thing is this: if you'd have said Bob Bag, James, there's a company make underpants called Bob Bags, and they could have sued you.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? But I mean,
crazy stuff. Craig get jailed for a piece of jigsaw.
Absolutely.
That's what he done.
I mean, some of the I mean, I've had threats for unionists going to kill me and all the rest of it, but these folk don't get fucking pulled up for it. They don't get jailed. But I mean, this just shows you.
How many people have been jailed in Scotland, James, in the last 50 years without having a juror of their peers ruling the conviction?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what's happened in this case. It's been one individual, one judge that's made this sentence down and handed it down. But as you said, a piece of a jigsaw, and no other pieces of that jigsaw have been put up for charge.
Hold on, guys. Either Keith
music
or,
in the background.
Either Keith or David, you have either another speaker on or something. There's music or TV playing, and that really resonates.
Yeah.
It resonates.
Yeah, he is. I remember once they had a parrot in a cage. There we go.
Oh, better.
All right, Keith, you wanted to come in.
£10.
Yeah, I've been following the Craig Murray thing, even like through the Alex Salmon trial, and I knew that they were going to go after him, right? Because that was a guaranteed nap. Because of his background, you got to remember he worked for the British state at one point.
Yeah, he did.
Right, and then he turned on them, right, and then they tried to frame. They tried to frame him up then, right? So he was a marked man already.
I still have an echo. So is there something?
I think it's someone's trying to get to link up with you, Raymond.
No, it's not.
No?
It's another electronic device, either another speaker or a
Nothing else.
Got a TV and a radio. Or something.
TV or radio or something's on.
I'll switch the Google box off.
I
think that's it.
One of the things that often happens, we do love to get audience involved.
Yeah.
So if you're not speaking on camera at any point, just mute yourself on the Zoom, and that just makes sure that we don't have too many problems with the production and annoy the audience, and especially.
Oh no, it's still going on. It's still going on.
I've only got my phone on. That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah, that's all.
Something is playing with somebody in the background. It's either a TV or a.
If nobody knows, they can mute away in the far left, bottom left-hand side.
Yeah.
Of the screen. It seems okay, Raymond. Now, does it?
No, it's still there. It's softer now, but no, we're fine. But like Ian and like John said, if you're not top. And David's gone. All right, David, if you're watching, if you still want to get back, please do so.
Can you still hear me, Raymond?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, it's like I was saying about the Murray thing.
Yeah, Go ahead.
If you look at his background, they try to frame him up already, and they failed, right? So this was the perfect opportunity for them to get back at him for what he had done to them. And this was just them getting him payback.
This is why there was no jury in that trial.
Well, that was it. They were out to take that guy and put him into jail no matter what. It was simple as that.
Not Lord Doran was it not the same judge that ruled on Craig Murray was the one that was doing the Martin Keating Section 30?
It was.
Okay,
yeah.
Just to clarify.
I've already said that the Scottish judiciary system has been infiltrated by unionists sitting in high seats of power.
Yeah. I believe you,
It's
100%.
always been that way.
Yeah.
Always been that way.
They've got this union set up in such a way, right, that if anybody stands up against the British state for Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland, they're going to persecute them no matter what.
Absolutely, 100% spot on. What you say is absolutely correct. That's why they picked me up and said no bag. That's when the Scottish Resistance was doing lots of protests.
Dave
and they were out to get
Llewellyn,
me.
Raymond, big Dave Llewellyn, a good friend. He was raided, right? His house was raided. Mark Hist, the journalist, international, well-renowned journalist, they removed his PC, laptop, mobile, the lot. And now soon, and we've taken him to court, and he's going to win his case. Only for speaking out against the system.
Yeah.
And that's the way, what's happened now is Scotland has entered a very dangerous period in our history.
Exactly.
This is the rise of fascism, folks.
They've succumbed to Westminster.
Well,
last week,
last week we talked. Last week we talked about rise of fascism.
Well, I've already.
Hold on. Let people finish. Well, we talked about that last week, and this is the perfect example. I mean, as soon as you start jailing people for speaking out, then you're in trouble. Keith, go on.
If you look at the laws that they're putting through Westminster right now, at the moment, and behind closed doors, the Priti Patel, what she's been up to, the laws that are putting in place against their own citizens. So I mean,
Exactly.
it's like we went back in time and we're sitting watching history repeat itself here.
That's a perfect example.
It's like what Hitler was coming to power. If you look exactly what the UK government's doing right now, they're playing the same handbook, they're playing the same scenario.
Well, I would even make one better. I mean, it wasn't Hitler that started the concentration camps.
No, it was fucking Winston Churchill.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you, he was one of the biggest criminals in history.
Yeah, he wanted to
Churchill.
go. He
Was fighting a war against the biggest criminal in history. So it's two devils.
See, I always believed that our country was going to be a beacon of light for freedom. It would resist any outside influence. That was my dream. I'm not seeing that anymore. And as Ian was saying, all these laws, the hate crime bill, for example, this law that handed the police incredible powers in London, in England, will come to Scotland. In fact, it's probably here right now. That's what it is. Now, the thing is this, is when they jailed Craig, he was a very prominent figure, international figure. That was to scare us. That was to scare us. I spoke to Craig. Craig explained to me outside Holyrood, as it was the next day he was going to jail, about this had been hanging over him since 2003. They'd been hunting him.
Yeah.
Now, nobody else would have been jailed for a piece of jigsaw identification. That would never have happened. But that was the way they got Craig. He was standing with his wife, and I think his child is only 6 months old, outside Holyrood. And to wrench a man who's very ill, who's got ill health, away from his young family and throw him in Saughton prison is one of Scotland's biggest shames in 100 years. Biggest shame.
Do you guys think that maybe they're using Craig to maybe see how people will react when they start jailing people, like a trial? On a trial basis.
Could be.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost the same with if you look back to my football team Rangers, when they went through their administration because of the EBTs that were being used as the tax avoidance at the time. Basically paying players loans, that the loans were paying back to them, but they didn't have to pay tax on the loan. Rangers was a very small fish in that case. It was the likes of Manchester City, Chelsea, Tottenham. There was lots of Premier League football clubs that had done exactly the same thing, but to a much grander scale. And the whole point of prosecuting Rangers by HMRC was that it was a test prosecution. It was to see they could get it with Rangers, they could then go after these other ones. And because of the problems that they had with, trying to prove the Rangers case, they haven't gone for those other people and those individuals. And those
They were an easy target. Rangers were an easy target.
Yeah.
These clubs were massive.
Target. Same way that the Scots are always the first one in the lines in the wars. I think the statistics of World War One, I think it was 25% of the Scots that were served were killed, and that compared to a UK average of 8%.
Yeah, Churchill done that. He left them to slaughter on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
They emptied some of the islands in the Isle of Barra. All the young men were taken from their girlfriends, were engaged to be married. They never returned to Isle of Barra, and all those women died. The majority of them died without ever having a husband. That's what happened there. And then they say, you're a hero. Well, no, World War One was not a war for the people. It was a war for the sovereign countries out with. It was an assassination that caused that war.
Yeah.
Assassination. The World War II was different, obviously, but it was an assassination of Frederick, I can't remember his name, that caused that war.
Yeah.
Franz Ferdinand.
Franz Ferdinand. Well,
yeah. That happened in Austria, didn't it?
It in Austria.
Assassination. Yeah.
You cannot watch that assassination on YouTube if you're like-minded like me. You can watch the assassination. That's what caused millions of deaths.
Yeah, well, that's why Queen Victoria
four of my great uncles were
royal
killed.
Family.
Yeah.
Sorry, Keith?
That's why Queen Victoria married into the Germans to stop another war. This is what they done in these days. The kings and queens for different countries would.
Yeah, but there's another reason for that.
Yeah.
They used to only get married to other royalty, and that's where the whole problem lies. It was one bloody family at one point. I mean, the Romanovs, the von Habsburgs, the whatever, they were all related.
And I was going to say this ties in, Raymond, with what John, you were saying earlier on there about, in an independent Scotland, it's the haves and have-nots. It's the ones that are born into wealth. It's the divide gap. It's ever growing. And as I said, the true people that run the world, it's not the prime ministers or the presidents of the world. It's who's controlling them, and we'll never see them. We'll never hear from them. We'll just get their get told by their puppets what we're going to be doing. But can we stop that in an independent Scotland? Can we really do our own thing?
Well, that need to be people power in for that one.
It'd have to be blockchain democracy.
Yeah,
it would
have to be. But I keep getting back to Barbados, who are going to leave. What the hell is this here? They said they're pulling out. They want to be an independent country, and there's nothing that anybody can do about it. There are no Section 30 required in Barbados.
By the way, John, we only see your face and beard now. Everything else is dark. Pretty good. No, don't worry about it. It's cool.
What's happened to my lights?
I don't know.
It suddenly went
black. You're
black.
not paid the electricity bill, man.
It's not. I'll need to ask my wife to light another candle.
Ian, could you go through the comments again if there are anything?
Yeah, listen, my Facebook's been playing up horribly tonight, so my comments keep freezing.
I'm just going to put my lights on.
Missing vast majority of them, but George Dave was asking whose clock is that always chimes when we were having our...
That's mine.
Always Raymond.
Yeah.
Stephen Kelly, it should be a truce by all parties. Should be a truce by all indivists, ultimately. Luke Jones.
No, here we are. There you are. Now you can see my beard. No, it's glorious.
There you go.
Henna colour.
And your lovely made bed in the background there as well, eh?
Oh dear.
All right, guys. Is anybody else want to say something about the topic at hand, jailing of Craig Murray?
There was protests at the prison yesterday.
Yeah, there we go.
There was protests outside the prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what more can you do? I mean, I actually said that he'll be released in a couple of weeks, maybe. That's what I'm thinking, because of his poor health.
Well,
Imagine if something happened to Craig Murray in prison.
Yeah, we talked. Raymond mentioned earlier on, is this the first of many? Is this him trying it? The second one that's up is Marion Miller.
I spoke to Marion today.
So is it tomorrow or Wednesday?
No, the 30th. It's been moved to Ian.
I'll be moved. Listen, I assumed
They've moved it.
So it's been officially moved, right? So I don't need to cover it. I'm off. But yeah, when it comes round, we'll cover that in Independence Live.
Yeah,
but
I'll be there.
This is half the punishment these individuals go through, and it's the same with Gary Kelly now. With his Yes To, the AUB event up in Aberdeen, for the non-payment of, I think, something to do with the road restrictions. But that's been moved back to November this year, and it'll get moved again. And
is that the one with Gary Kelly? No.
Yeah.
No.
So that over 2 years from charge.
Gary Kelly is not with All in One Banner anymore, but he was.
No, he was
the
Action for Independence.
Yeah, but he was signed person at the when that rally took place.
Yeah,
so that's why he's still responsible.
Aye. So you're talking, what was that, August or September 2019?
Yeah, something like that.
And we're now in 2021, so it's going to be more than 2. And as I said, I suspect by November it will get into the new year. And that is the true punishment for these people. It's not the fine or the slap in the wrist that the court's going to hand down. It's that going to bed every night with that hanging over your head. That's what Marion's living with now. That's what Gary's living with. And unfortunately,
she's getting an autistic child as well.
Away very free, so that's why Craig Murray's in his position now, and full solidarity with him, because
definitely
they'll come for us all eventually.
Definitely, even if you don't, if you're not a supporter of Craig per se, you should be supporting of support free speech, and nobody should be jailed for speaking his mind, no matter what it's about.
Raymond, there's a lot of people in Scotland. If we say black, they'll say white. No matter what.
Like we say, they can't. They couldn't agree on the colour of shite. That's basically.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Yeah, they're probably the same in every other country.
Oh, definitely.
Probably is.
Definitely.
But then again, we will stand by each other.
Definitely.
And the rest of the people, and the women's groups are incredible. They are incredible. They've started a new suffragette movement.
They what?
A suffragette movement. Remember the suffragettes, for the power for women to vote? Because the SNP cast them aside in favour of the trans activists. So the women had to leave the SNP and form their own movement. They protest. There were a big protest at Holyrood with them a few weeks ago. Come on, I can see you.
Go ahead, Keith.
I've seen something that actually I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Right, a tent stand on my high street for LGBT.
There you go. It doesn't surprise me.
Right, and I thought, what the fuck? There was no independence thing or that. An LGBT tent on rights and all the rest of it up my high street today, and I thought, what the fuck?
And Keith, they're a tiny minority, but exactly. Do you see what the SNP have done with Our Yes logo? Do you know what they've done with it? They've put the LBGT or whatever the hell it is flag.
No,
put the Yes logo on it.
They've put the colours of all the political parties in Scotland in it.
Well, that looks very suspicious to me.
It's,
Let me see it.
The Tories, it's not the colours of the rainbow.
Oh, is it not? Well,
No,
I'm colourblind, maybe that's what.
But listen, the thing is, it's the identity politics is obviously a really touchy subject. If I was to give any opinion on it without getting myself into too much trouble, where I would like, and it's drawn a line in a very, very wavy bit of speech that is getting moved all the time. But I have ultimate problems when you've got Olympians who as someone who's a sports enthusiast myself, I would have loved to have represented Scotland or Great Britain as it is at the moment in the Olympics as a snowboarder.
Great Britain, no way.
Listen, if I'm too old for it now. Like,
I don't even.
Hold on.
I don't
the point
support.
I'm making is when you've got women who have been living as women for a couple of years. The woman I think in question was 43. From the age of 16 as a man, she competed as a weightlifter all the way through to her 40s, and then transitioned from male to female, and now is in the female competitions in the Olympics. But that's someone that's got a completely unfair advantage when you're talking about the hormones that they go through in puberty. You go through a decade plus of training in the gym with a male physique, and then there was it's very complicated when you bring in sports.
But there was no chance of any women winning that gold there, was there?
Well, the person, I can't remember, it was someone from New Zealand, this lassie, but she disqualified. She failed to register a legal lift, so she didn't actually get the medal ceremony. And if you watch back the three girls when they won it gold, silver, bronze, during the press conference, they were obviously asked about this, how they felt about competing with this individual, and they couldn't give it really any comment other than to say it wasn't fair. And it's far from fair.
The thing that I have no problem whatsoever with anything promoting LGBTQ. You mentioned, Keith, the stall. I couldn't care less about that. If anybody deserves to be on the streets, then they do too. But, and here's where the but comes in. The thing you mentioned, one of the things that male sporters basically get disqualified for is if they have too much testosterone in them. It could be ingested through any means, and that's where sometimes they get disqualified for that. Now, if you have somebody, like you said, that's been in the Olympics as a woman, as a man, and now as a woman, like 2 years, she's gonna have more testosterone in them. Why would she not be disqualified for the very same reason? That's a double standard. That's a double standard.
But that's the thing. I think they tested her hormone levels, and her hormone levels were that of within range of a woman, so she was allowed to be at that point. But the point I'm making is physically, the muscles you build, if you spend a decade as a man building that muscle, doing that growth, and then in a few years' time you revert to, a female program, so you're competing at female levels. And this lassie went on, smashed all these records. That's how she was at the Olympics, because to qualify for the Olympics, you've got to go through all sorts of qualifying in all the different sports and categories. So, as I said, then the other point I think of is bathrooms, and I see all these arguments online about using toilets, and everyone's entitled to a safe place. But I think to the Pentagon in the United States, and it's one of the buildings in the world that has the most toilets per any public building. And the key reason for that is because there was white man, white female, coloured man, coloured female toilets. And it was, but by the time, fortunately, America opened that building, they'd got rid of these now outdated laws. But you still see the knock-on effect of that in today's America, with the inherent racism. You're telling someone that's coloured they're not good enough to sit in the same toilet seat as you, or sit in the same bit of the bus. It's the same with the LGBT community. You can't share this platform with me, or you can't represent here. So it's very murky. I would rather we just had one bathroom, and we all had an individual cubicle with even the sink that sat on top of the toilet bowl, so that the water you wash your hands with went into the toilet to flush everything away. I think that would maybe be environmentally friendly.
But it's,
man, I don't like peeing in a trough in front of another 50 men.
Yeah,
but it's the thought of young girls in the toilet, and this big guy coming in with a beard, tight skirt and high heels. that freaks them out, because it has happened. The thing is this: I have nothing against transgender people. It's only when they force their way into politics. They should have just stayed as a minority. We would have accepted them. We could have worked alongside them. We could have argued, helped them, and came to some agreement. But when they force their way into the SNP, which is full of transgenders anyway, that's when the women were punished. That's when the hate crime bill was brought out. and that's when the woman left the SNP. I believe in biological women, biological men, but I don't agree with men breastfeeding children because they've got these chemical breast things that's coming to this country as well. That's shocking.
But that's not even possible, mate.
Well, yeah, they've seen it.
That's
You've no idea. Whatever they do, be it they put some.
That's not even possible.
They could put a cow implant into them,
Yeah.
a milk implant.
Even women can breastfeed
Honestly,
if it's enhanced.
that's what they can do.
I don't have anything against gays, lesbians, or anything like that.
Nothing.
But to get this coming up in the Parliament when they should be focusing on
COVID
independence.
recovery,
Right now.
independence, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
right. There should be a group in that Parliament speaking to the rest of the Scottish sovereign people about our input into a new white paper.
Yeah, there should be an elected
Right?
group.
The currency has to be spoken about, everything, and there's fuck all getting done.
You can
Well,
ask
I would-
Joanna Sherry how much she's suffered, Keith.
Yeah,
She's
I
been
know.
attacked by them.
But
Threatened
I-
with it.
I would suggest that if they would be the best person for any job in Parliament, go right ahead. But if you're put in place just because of the fact, then why bother?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you want to have society represented as big, and if you look at the way that we're set up at the moment, Holyrood's only answered to Westminster. So in an independent Scotland, if we had Holyrood elected by politicians, I would rather it was the best politicians possible.
Exactly.
Not simply because you're female, not simply because you're coloured, not simply because you speak Doric, not
No.
simply because,
Not even because you're
That's
male.
not-
Not even because you're male.
but the People's Assembly, however, that could, very easily fill in those demographics. You're selecting
Yeah.
10,000 people across Scotland to sign in on a smartphone to have their say on how Scottish politics works,
Yeah.
and give everyone a fixed term. Then that way, you can look at making sure all the minority groups are covered.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There should
Yeah.
be a People's Assembly, yeah.
It's not, it's just to kind of correlate the two. It's not. I've got a problem at all with all these issues coming up into Parliament. It's who's saying them. So, for example, some of the biggest opposition to everything that goes through our political systems is by the church. It's by religion. There's unelected representatives of all the religious bodies that reside within the Westminster system. So these are all things that we need to look at. Do we want to have so much of these religions and old bylaws involved in how we make our decisions going forward? Sorry, David, I always go down.
No worries, mate. No worries, mate.
Can I,
But,
one more word about
last-
the trans folk.
la- la-
The
last-
trans activists the trans people are not interested in independence.
I would highly disagree with that. I know gay people that are very
No,
pro-
I'm talking about the trans activists. There are a lot of gay people in independence.
activists
They
are only
wanted
active in
They wanted more
activists
power.
are only active in whatever aspect that they're wanting to get involved in. Now, that could be for me and you. Now it's Scottish independence, but for me and you, and another subject could be something else. So, it could be government disclosures. It could be X, Y, Z. Activism, as a nutshell, is quite a dangerous route to go down. I've lived life for that for the last 3 years. I can assure you on that. As you can for the 3+ years you've got on me, but ultimately it's about working together. It's teamwork, and that's where a lot of activists fail. They fail to work with each other. They fail to work with, and that's how you see these different movements come and go all the time, because they fail to work with the most important people, which is everybody.
If we could all reach out to each other,
we would still
That's
fall
right.
out.
We'll see what happens there. Final for this topic, and then we're gonna do final comments. James.
I've just one thing to say on this subject. I remember the days when a transistor was a radio.
oh, I never thought of that, James.
That's so lame. That's so lame, mate. Even from you, that's so lame.
Raymond, that took him 20 minutes. Come up with a.
Did you have it written down on a piece of paper?
I saw the twinkle in your eye, James Scott.
Aye.
Did you have it written down?
You enjoyed it, that's all that matters.
Did you have it written down, James?
No.
Oh well. All right, let's go to.
Remember they had a transistor.
Yeah, let's go
There
to.
you go. Very good.
Let's go to final comments. But first, before we do, Dave McBeath, who joined us briefly but was cut off for some reason. Dave, if you're still listening, I would like to extend an invitation for next week's show. If you want to be on, send me or any of the panel members from the SRA PM if you want to be on, and we'll get you on next week for the entire show. So just let us know. Keith, your final comments for tonight.
My final comments. Where do I start?
With your final comment.
Well, on the Craig Murray thing, he was just a marked man as far as I'm concerned, and they were going to get him no matter what. And when you play with fire, eventually you're going to get burnt. And playing with the British state is playing with the biggest fireball you'll ever touch. Know what I mean?
Mm.
And as soon as I seen him in court and that and reporting that, I thought, if anything comes of this, to me it was just like a political stitch-up. They were trying to bring the Scottish government down. It was an attempted political coup, and because they couldn't get Alex Salmond or Nicola Sturgeon, they went for him because they've got background with him, they've got previous with him. Know what I mean? So they just went
in mind, Ian, they're the most ruthless state on Mother Earth.
Yeah, well, they've had plenty of practice. They rule 3/4 of the world. You know what I mean? And they invented, like they said, Winston Churchill invented the concentration camps and everything. They've raped and pillaged their way across 3/4 of the planet. They're the last great empire on this planet that still exists. And as far as I'm concerned, I see my country as just a colony of wealth to be spoken down to be told we're too poor and too stupid to run our own affairs when there's other countries that have got nothing, the wealth that we've got. They can't touch what we've got, right? And all we're doing is being bled dry by the country next door, and it's supposed to be in a union of equals. No such thing ever existed. That was done against the Scottish people's will for the start.
They hand us back 8% of annual revenue.
No discussion now. Final comments.
Right, but like I said, I think that the way I see things is if the SNP didn't start pushing on the independence front, I mean, I've been bombarding my MSP with things like the Craig Murray thing. I've been bombarding him every single couple of days. He gets hit with something for me on the Facebook Messenger, my local MSP, and I've been doing that. And I think I eventually rattled his cage because I sent the thing about that document. I don't know if anybody else has noticed. It was released on Tuesday online. The two guys, one serving in the UK cabinet in number 10, and the other one's a professor of English law. And they wrote a piece on how Scotland could become independent with the Section 30 order, and it was suppressed just like they've done with the Macron report. And then somebody got a hold of it and released it. And it's all down to their part of the United Nations. If they go against the Scottish people and try to deny us our democracy and try to take us to court and everything, if we go ahead without a Section 30 order, they'd instantly get booted out of the United Nations because they sit on the board, and they'd be going straight against one of the basic principles in the United Nations is every country has got the right to self-determination to form a government of its own choosing. They get classed as a pariah state, they get thrown out in the rear, right? And then they'll get all sorts of embargoes forced on them by the rest of the world for what they try to do to us. Get what I mean? And these two guys wrote this, and that got released on Tuesday on the internet, and I punted that straight to my MSP. And within 24 hours, I got an email for the old guy that's in charge of the Independence Drive, Kenny, was it McCaskill?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I got email sent to me by him saying, oh, there is going to be an independence vote and everything. So I've obviously rattled somebody's cage by keeping bombarding the MSP with stuff. Know what I mean? So I think that's the only way we need to, like, to try and put pressure on SNP is to everything that comes up, Craig Murray, everything, we all just bombard your MSP with this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Start hitting them with this stuff, making them that we're aware of what's going on. Are you?
Definitely. We just mentioned Mike Russell, by the way. So that's probably what you're talking about, not an Academy Gospel, but
yeah, I was there. The guy that's in charge of the independence
I think
thing.
that might be Mike Russell.
Yeah, they're talking about a written constitution.
Yeah.
He's on about that as well, but there's 3 being written, and I've had the chance to put that in place, and I've still not done it.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. John, your final comments for tonight.
Yeah, well, I agree totally with what Keith had said there, right enough. But Craig was a sacrificial lamb, and a very important one. Very, very clever man, very calm man.
And he freezes up.
And his young boy, 12-year-old son.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine what they were going through.
It
was so. I just hope they release him soon. But Craig won't come out and hide in a cave. John Pilgrim and all support him. And don't forget, you know, Keith, it was. This is when James will pull me up in the pronunciation. Assange, is that right?
Yeah.
He was fighting for him, his freedom as well.
I know that.
Yeah. So that was another thing. They wanted, there's no get rid of him. He'll just come out and just battle on as usual. They were just trying to shock all the other serious activists. That's what they're trying to do as well, is punish Craig. And it was done by Scots on behalf of the Westminster government. They were complicit in what happened to Craig.
So
definitely were.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's about it for me, Raymond.
No problem. Ian.
Yeah.
Aye, I'm just basically reading through some of the comments here. So a few people commenting saying they've just come from the other side. So this is obviously, we stream out onto multiple platforms. So, you know, if you have been chatting away on Independence Live, Doorstep Referendum, Ask About any of the other pages that we go on to, make sure that we will read back through that. As you know, your contributions are more than welcome. It's just we don't always get to see them because there's too many chats to follow. Troon Radio, thank you again for the shouts. There was a banter post going with them earlier on talking about there was some really bad jokes on James's Transistors thread, but I've completely lost them now.
There's a sense of humour.
Aye, but listen, just all to all the individuals, just keep active, keep the heat, do what you can do, work that out, get in touch with your local Yes group, keep an eye out what's happening in your local community, join the Scottish Resistance, we'll keep you informed across the country as to what's happening and across the world, because you know we're not just in Scotland, we're many, many places. But thanks for joining tonight, and thanks again, Raymond, for putting up with all our nonsense, sir.
No problem, mate.
Raymond's always a very patient, calm individual.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the Dutch are like that, especially from the Hague. No, I know, I'm not quite.
You have not met a lot. No. Yeah, my final comments. I just want to say that don't let any discussion get between your friends, your families, and everything, because we see that happen in the Yes movement as well. Keep the eye on the prize, basically, and just if anyone in your family or friends group has a different opinion on anything, it doesn't matter if you're able to talk. Like, we don't agree on a lot of stuff either, but we're talking every week with these shows. We're talking with the panels. What are you in? Oh, all right. Well, so please don't do that. Respect everybody's opinion, and then we'll get there in my book. I want to do a quick shout out again to Dave McBeath. If you want to be on next week, please let us know, and we'll get you sorted. We'll get you on next week.
Just going to say very quickly, Raymond, there was
yeah.
a chat I forgot about earlier on. Thomas MacArthur that's been in the chat is actually done as a song called The Scottish Resistance. So,
cool.
we'll get that on in the VT. I didn't get it today at the time. It was a busy weekend for me, just to get my excuses in there now. But
Thomas, what we'll do is after the countdown, when the show starts, we'll play the song first, if that's okay with you, and then we're just going to start the show, or we can do it at the end, whatever your preference would be. I would suggest do it at the beginning, because then more people will be watching and more people will be hearing your music. But just let us know what you would like us to do with that. James.
Talking about Scottish Resistance songs, I've already written about 20 Scottish Resistance songs. I just need some folk singer to sing them, because I can't sing. But what I can do is I can say this, what I love to do when I go up the top of Buchanan Street. This is the Scottish Resistance. We will never give up the fight for Scotland's freedom. Good night, folks.
Good night,
everyone. James.
Good night.
James, Ruth Davidson's a good singer.